You are listening to a panel conversation recorded live on Tuesday, the 4th of November, 2025, following the performance of Punch at the Apollo Theatre, Shaftesbury Avenue. The conversation is part of the After the Punch series created by the Forgiveness Project. The speakers are Aika Stephenson, Ciaran Thapar, Desmond and Jacob Dunne, with thanks to St Giles Trust and Just for Kids Law for co-hosting this talk.
Thank you all so much for coming and staying for this post-show conversation. My name is Jacob Dunne. You may know me from the play that you've just seen. And this is a post-show series curated by the fabulous charity who I've worked with for a very long time, the Forgiveness Project. And the title for this post-show conversation is It Takes a Village to Raise a Child. And I have a fabulous lineup of panel members who are very well equipped to speak into this topic. And I want to leave you with a quote first, though, that I often use when speaking and out and about, which speaks to this issue about our collective responsibility. And it does take a village to raise a child, but if a young person doesn't feel part of that village, he'll burn it down to feel its warmth. And that is how I want to frame this conversation going forward. So our charity partners, we have charity partners every post-show conversation, and if you go on the Punch to Play website, you can find the full details of all our charity partners. But our charity partners for this conversation are Just for Law Kids and St Giles Trust, two fabulous charities. And so please welcome me in introducing my amazing panel, Desmond from the senior mentor at the St Giles Trust. Aika Stephenson, CEO of Just for Kids Law. And Ciaran Thapar, who is an author of Cut Short and the Director of Public Affairs and Communications at the Youth Endowment Fund. Aika, can I come to you first for a brief description of what Just for Kids Law do and the work that you do?
Do I need to turn this on, or is it good? Yeah. Okay. Slight stage fright. I've always been sitting down there and not up here. But we are a charity that provides direct representation to children in the criminal legal system and in care. And we also campaign, do policy work and take strategic legal challenges to try and achieve change for children across the board. Amazing.
And Desmond, can I come to you for a brief description of the work you do and what the St Giles Trust do?
Yes, thank you so very much, Jacob. And good evening, everybody. So, honor for me to be here. And my name is Desmond and I work for St Giles Trust. I work with the SOS Embedded Mentoring Program, partnership with the YEF Fund. And we support children and young people that are at risk and vulnerable to criminal exploitation. Thank you so much, Jacob.
Thank you, Desmond. So we only have 20 minutes to discuss this important topic, and then we'll open up to the audience for some Q&A. So the first question, I want to come to you, Ciaran, and that is, what part of this play connects to you and your work at the Youth Endowment Fund?
Good evening, everyone. What connects to me, lots of things connect to me. I was just thinking a lot about, as I watched that play, I'm expecting my first child, a son, in February. So that was quite deep watching that at the end. I was a young man. Me and you are exactly the same age. So a lot of what you went through wasn't what I went through, but there was definitely relatability there. And just thinking on my own journey and my friends' journeys as well, I think a lot of young men make poor decisions and aren't supported to make better ones. So I think I related on that level as well. In terms of the work I've done, my background's in youth work, and I could see a lot of the boys and young men and young people generally in the character on stage. And so seeing those frustrations, but also the redemption story as well, was beautiful. And the work at the Youth Endowment Fund, we're a charity that researches, funds and promotes interventions for violence affecting children. And restorative justice is actually a very well-researched intervention for violence. So it's not often that you get to see something that often just sits in a policy report recommended to a minister or a civil servant in the West End, and in such a powerful story. So I think it's super powerful that you've managed to bring it here. So yeah.
Thank you. Aika, can I come to you in terms of your connection and your work to the play?
Yeah, well, this wasn't the first time that I saw it, because I also came on the charity night. But when I came on the charity night, it brought up something that I hadn't really thought about for a really long time, which was that my brother, he punched someone at a rave, and it resulted in them being temporarily paralysed. And he was convicted of, it was initially, he was charged with GBH, but he was convicted of ABH in the end, because this person was using a lot of LSD, so it was very difficult to establish a link in terms of what he had done. But he then went to prison for 11 months, and so it brought back all of those feelings around that. And then in my work every day, I represent children who have made a decision in that moment, a split-second decision that has changed their life. And I think that's what we see all of the time, that if we think about adolescent brain development and how difficult it actually is for children and young people to kind of think outside of that moment, and think about things long-term and consequentially, it's just, for a lot of young people, it's not even scientifically possible. And so, that really resonates with me about this story, and also the element of peer pressure and friendship and the impact that has on the decisions that young people make.
Yeah, and because, you're often at the end of the spectrum in terms of when people have committed offences, and, you could say that being incarcerated is the ultimate example of when people are no longer part of the village, because they are literally removed from society. What would you say in terms of, you hear the stories of how people end up there? Can you just speak a little bit into kind of what are those typical stories of those people that you support when they're at that point of being in court and in the police cell?
I think what's really sad about it is that I never, I always thought it wouldn't be as predictable as it is. And sadly, in a lot of cases, it is really predictable. And it's our job at that crisis point to actually look backwards, and in order to sort of mitigate or understand a young person and be able to tell their story in court proceedings, then you have to look backwards, and you can see where it all went wrong. And I mean, just the other day, my colleague was going through school records of a young man that we are now, a child that we're now representing, and he kept getting behaviour points. And she said, he keeps getting behaviour points for falling asleep in class. And when does that become a behaviour issue and not a safeguarding issue? And I think you can see very early on where it begins to go wrong.
Thank you, Aika. Desmond, what part of this play connects to you and the work you do at St Giles Trust? Because you're often working with young people, mentoring and trying to prevent them from entering the criminal justice system a little earlier on. So how did this play connect with you and your work?
The part that really, really connects with me on two levels, on a personal level and the level of my job. And that is the pain that I saw in the moms, the parents. One, your parents, the actor parents, but it's your parents, and the victim parents. And the pain was real. I remember growing up and the stress that I caused my mom. And when I got into trouble, you know, the pain that she expressed was similar to what I was kind of feeling and here. And the young people that we work with, a lot of these young people, they tell us that parents are judgmental, and so they disengage from the authority of their parents. And when we have opportunity to engage both parents and young person, we see that pain. So the play really brought that to life for me. And you know, I was sitting there and I was watching it, and like I told you, Jacob, I talk about my mom every day. And guys, my mom did pass, and I think about her when I'm doing the job, and I know she's looking down, and I'm confident that she's happy for the place where
I'm sure she is very proud of the work you do, Desmond. And this play is in honor to all the mothers. You know, the play is driven forward by the female characters in the play, whether it's Wendy, the probation officer, whether it's my mum, whether it's Joan, who's trying to find a way forward to prevent the characters in the play from being stuck. And it is a tribute as much as it is to James Hodgkinson, as it is to the mothers in the play and the role that mothers have in our lives. And that leads me on to the next question, which is, what are the elements a child needs to belong in the village? And I'd like to just, sticking on mothers, is point to a point in the play which I thought was crucial. It was like, James, you've got to get this point in the play, which was at some point in a young child's life, it becomes more important to please your mates than it does to please your mum. And I guess that leads to some of the stuff you were talking about, Aika, in terms of peer pressure. And so, Ciaran, can I come back to you in terms of what are the elements a child needs to belong to the village and to stay connected instead of seeking that belonging in potentially toxic places?
Yeah, sure. Mum was a school nurse and my dad was a GP. And so I kind of grew up going home every day from school with conversations at the dinner table about supporting the community. And we'd walk down the street and someone would recognise them. Every single time we left the house, someone would recognise my dad as their GP or whatever. And I think growing up with that really showed me the role of having presence and having value in your community. And I think a lot of young people don't feel that. And I think the word mattering, like I think a lot of us grow up knowing that we matter to someone or multiple people or to society. And a lot of young people do not feel that. And I think ensuring that young people matter is really important. In my book, Cut Short, one of the kind of story threads in it documents my life as a youth worker in South London across a 5-year period. I started working with a boy called Jamar Jonas when he was 12, and he sadly lost his older brother when he was 15 to a stabbing. And one of the things that Jamar always says whenever me and him give talks about our journey together is that when he was offered and his friends were trying to persuade him to take revenge, they knew who did it. One of the things that stopped him doing that was knowing that myself, other mentors that he had, would check him for that. He knew that he mattered, and it stopped further retribution. So I think matters a lot. That's a really important point. And I think the comparison in the play is the moment when I see the snitch. And if I didn't have people in my life that mattered, if I hadn't started that exchange with David and Joan, then I would have retaliated. I would have took revenge. But I had responsibilities. My brother moved in with me after my mum passed away. I'd engaged in a conversation with David and Joan, and people started to matter and started asking me questions of, Jacob, what are you going to do with your life? End of Act 1. People mattered. People were taking an interest in me. And for me, weirdly, which I still sometimes find hard to believe, is that it was the people that I harmed the most that judged me the least. And so, Aika, can I come to you on that point in terms of what are the elements a child needs to belong to the village that you see?
I think one of the things that has guided Just for Kids Law is the James Baldwin quote, which is, "For these are all our children, and we will either profit or pay for whatever they become." And I think that says it all, really. In essence, I think that we need to stop othering children that end up in the criminal legal system or end up in care. We have represented children who have been excluded from school. They've been excluded from their local youth club. They have. There is no trusted adult in their life, and I think that's really key. And I think as a society, we need to really think about what we're doing when we treat those children as a different set of children.
Yeah, thank you. And I would really recommend everybody checking out Just for Kids Law, because you guys are showing up with in that advocacy role for those young people in the darkest time, when they've received a sentence, when they're being prosecuted, going through the court system, and for someone to show up and try and care and try and advocate for them and represent them and help them tell their stories, which is also what I'm trying to do through this play, is to go, it's not about me necessarily, it's about, giving an insight into that this is a common theme and the experiences of lots of young people, and organisations like everyone up here, and especially yours, Aika, at that moment when they're in the court system, for someone to show up and care is really important. And Desmond, what do you think? You're working with young people all the time. What do you think are those elements that help young people stay connected?
So it's the ability to trust young people and to be able to relate to young people, to be able to listen to them and to respond to their questions. Because when a young person believes and know in their heart that you will listen to them, even though you might disagree with them, but you will listen to them and give them the time of day, they are more apt to come to you. One of the things that we identify with young people is that when they lose trust, it's very difficult for them to get it back. And they do not like to engage with people who are not consistent. They don't like, one young man said to me that, my mom always tell me not to smoke, and every second I see her smoking. And so it's like you have an expectation of your child, and your child have an expectation of you. And children have an expectation of adults, and the law said that. The law said each of us have a duty of care for our children. So whatever, and a child is a child. So whatever challenge a child have, it is our responsibility to find the best way to support that child. The best way to support, not to help, because children are not helpless. So we don't advocate help, we advocate support. And the support have to be collaborative between the child and the adult, because it's the child's life. And a lot of time we tend to believe that we have the best interest, which we do because we have the responsibility, but we have to listen to them as well. And once we listening to them, give them a listening ear, and it's a sign the play, Jacob, where the James' dad was saying that he would not shake Jacob's hand. And then I'm watching because I want to see when it changes. And we know that change is incremental with young people. So I'm watching to see it plays out. So then when the water spill, James' dad got up and he wiped up the water. And I, as a mentor, we count that and we applaud that. In children, we look for those little subtle change and we applaud them, because that little change eventually become a big change. And then we begin to see a new picture start taking shape. So I would say young people need related adults that they can trust. And where there is trust, there's a possibility for engagement. And where there is engagement, we have the power to impact. And so that's how I would respond to that question, Jacob.
Amen. And so I do want to leave enough time for questions and answers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the rest of the panel for one thing we can do to keep young people connected to the village. One thing audience members could do. Aika, can I come to you first on this one?
Is support those organisations that are creating the connection. Because I think that it's not always, it may not be something that someone might not have the requisite skills to actually work with, what is a very complex group of of children who've experienced significant trauma. But what you will have is some skills, and that could be you could become a trustee, you might have IT skills, you might be able to ensure that computers are donated to keep an organisation running and funding. So look at your local community and see who is actually creating these connections with these young people.
Yeah, do what you can to keep the glue sticky in your communities. Ciaran, can I come to you?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just echo everything that Aika just said. Maybe I'd reinforce the idea of local community. My whole journey in youth work started just because I signed up to mentor at a homework club nearby where I lived, and it just changed my life. And now I'm sat here with a long journey of doing more of that. And I think that all of you, everyone here has the power in some way to do a voluntary thing that contributes locally, whether that's for young people or adults that support young people in some way that might not be directly as a mentor, but it might be in another way that your skills can offer. So trying to search for something local. I think we need more of that in this country.
Thank you. And Desmond, may I come to you?
It takes a village, isn't it?
It takes a village.
It takes a village. It takes all aspect of the village, and access and resource. Access and resource. A lot of the young people that we work with come from the underserved community. Some of them are coming from home where there is not enough food. They come to school hungry. They're not ready to participate in education. And so access and resource, collaboration, collaborate with each other. The organizations working with the schools, organization working with the councils, policymakers working together for this one young person. Just this one, because each of these young people are unique. Their needs are unique. And we have to address it from that, because sometimes we tend to use a broad brush. We don't use language like kids are bad. We don't use that type of language, because we said if something is bad, we throw it away. You would never throw away your child. And by the way, in the play, you did have a child, so I want to congratulate you for that as well.
Thank you. I have 2 children now. Well, can I get a round of applause for my panel? I think the only thing I would add to that is that the third sector, the charity sector, picks up so much of the slack, especially in terms of, when we're in prison or when we're in probation or when we're assigned a youth, in youth justice. They're usually fixed term contracts of support. Many of the organisations that have associated with this play are there showing up, developing those trusted adult relationships, offering that unconditional support and building that trust so that we can prevent more people from drifting away and building a bridge back to the community. So let's raise the house lights and get some more questions from the audience to our panel.
Yes, my name's Reece Hamilton. I come from Melbourne, Australia. Thank you. Going back to summer tomorrow. In Victoria, youth and adolescent crime the last 18 months to 2 years has just gone absolutely ballistic. We've got home invasions, which never happened before. We've got carjackings. We've got groups running around the streets with machetes. There's just been a ban in Victoria on machetes. Is there a reason why that youth crime, I don't know what it's like here in England and London or whatever, but is there a reason why youth crime is becoming so, rampant and so out of control? Our state government and our police just don't know what to do. Anybody want to go with that, responding to that question?
I can give it a go. It's hard because I've never been to Australia, so I can't answer the question for there. One thing that's just really important to say about here is that there is a lot of hysteria right now about London being this death zone, when this summer was the first summer in which a teenager was not killed in London for about 20 years. So don't listen to, that's not to say everything's better. at all. But it's to say that the hysteria that is being channeled online is not always, and it often isn't, reflective of the truth. Things ebb and flow in ways that the media doesn't always accurately reflect. That isn't to say there aren't also problems. And I'd say, I can't speak for Australia, but I suppose globally there I think undeniably the normalisation and desensitization to violence that young people are growing up with in the palm of their hands on their smartphones is a problem. I don't think that that's the main reason. I think that is a contemporary issue that didn't exist, a generation ago. And I would also say like a broad attitude of governments towards divesting in services that's happening all across the world and has been happening for the last few decades means that those services that might pick up the slack are struggling more than ever. But again, I can't speak for Australia. I just assume that there might be some of those forces taking place.
Thank you. Can we come to this hand down here, please?
Firstly, want to say what a wonderful job the entire cast did. They were fantastic. But my question is around our kind of legal system and the way we are approaching some of these situations. And my understanding, totally open to being corrected if I'm wrong, is to do with knife crime and all of those things. What we have done is say if somebody is holding a knife, whatever it is, the sentence is higher, but doesn't actually address the problem of why people are in the situation where they may have knives or why they might be in these situations to begin with. What are your thoughts on the way our legal system is dealing with our current thought process?
Aika, do you want to go with that one?
Yeah, really badly. And I mean, there is a lot of hysteria around knife crime, and yeah, we're really missing the point with longer sentences and immediate custodial sentence. Deterrent sentencing has never worked with children, particularly. I don't think it doesn't really work. As you know, in America, where they have the death penalty in certain states, deterrence doesn't work. So we know that. So that it really is just political rhetoric when they're talking about that. It's completely missing the point. We've got children that I represent their whole life. They've been living in austerity and amidst the cuts. So it alludes to what Ciaran is talking about. We represent children who've witnessed violence on a day-to-day basis, who are simply scared and feel that they're not protected anywhere. They're not protected by the police. They're not protected by adults that are around them. And I think what we need to really look at is why we have a generation of children who are scared.
I'd agree. And just to add my 2 pence to both of those questions, both the Australia youth violence, people not caring, and the question around does deterrence work and our response to crime, I would say that the title of this conversation goes back to that, because the quality of our relationships equals the quality of our lives. And if young people don't have quality relationships with adults, quality relationships in their communities, they won't care about it. And it's that quote I used at the beginning: if people don't feel part of the community, don't have good relationships, then they'll burn down the community to feel its warmth. And so I'd say it's a symptom of fractured relationships, poor social cohesion, and look at the relationships and look at the communities and how well invested those young people, how part of the community, how well a part of the community those young people feel. We have time for one more question.
Thank you. The play was fabulous. I mean, it really moved me, I have to say. I'm here as a Tottenham councillor, and my colleague here is also a councillor from Haringey. So we're both really, really interested and really, keen to understand as much as we can, because it's a never-ending issue in the kind of places where we serve. The thing that I think interested me, one is whether schools and young people get a chance to see this play, because actually it's about that one moment, isn't it? It's the thing that threw me the most, is one moment can really destroy your whole life. You were lucky with the support you got to pick yourself up from that. But for a lot of young people that I come across, it's the one moment that just completely does them. Because moment after moment after that, it's finished. It really is. And you see, so I often meet young people who are just completely at the end, and they are, they're in a place where they're so diminished and really, frustrated and angry that it's possibly a little bit too late to pick them up. But the point is, it's that one moment, and I'd love us to be able to share with young people how one moment makes such a big difference, and why behaving and, finding help and support is the best way forward. I don't know. I don't have the right way to articulate it for you, but I just think that one moment really shook me completely.
Yeah, well, one thing that the producers of this production have done is we've subsidised school matinees for young people, and much of the kind of work that we're doing is to make this the most socially impactful play and the most engaging and accessible play there's ever been in the West End. And in the future life, we're committed to subsidising this production to school groups of all ages, no matter where it goes, when it goes elsewhere, but I can't say yet where. And I sadly, I can maybe get one word without getting in too much trouble from the rest of the panel for in response to those moments.
Well, the issue about moments, I have a brother that he always tell me he live in the moments. So moments are very important in our lives. So what we try to support young people with in the mentoring program is what we call the 5 W's, which is a safeguarding tool, which is the what, the where, the when, the why, the who. We want to know who we're going with, where we're going, when we're going, why we're going, and when we're going. So if the person gives you that information, no, you're going to make a conscious decision to go or not. So we try to help them to make conscious decision in that moment. And if they ask the right question, so we support a high state of curiosity in young people. And what we call the 3 C's, so it's the curiosity and the courage to ask the question, and the courage to say no or yes. And the more they do that, the more they develop self-confidence. So when they get into those situations, those moments, they are confident in the decision that they are making, and bear in mind the 5 W's about safeguarding. So that is how we kind of respond to that and give them the tool to deal with that, for making sense.
Ciaran, did you have one word that you wanted to add? I saw you kind of...
One word?
A couple of sentences.
About powerful moments. I think there are moments in everyone. It's kind of like that moment when, it transfers from... There's a point in your youth when you stop trying to please your mum, and trying to please your mates. And I think trying to catch young people at that point, if not earlier, who need it is key, and I think there are lots of really powerful ways of doing that don't cost much. We just got to organise better.
Yeah, and working with young people to find out what they're passionate about, so they can care in something more worthwhile, more meaningful. And on that note, it's been a pleasure having you all here. Thank you so much. Spread the word. And you can listen to the full series of post-show conversations. This is number 6 in a series of 9. You can go on the Punch to Play website or the Forgiveness Project website and listen back to the full series of conversations. Thank you, safe travels, and all the best.